On a Friday, and Mandy Gunasekara is with us, a candidate for Mississippi Public Service Commissioner, Northern District, and yesterday it's been kind of tense for you, has it not? And take us through that. Good morning, first of all. How are you?
Yeah, good morning. I'm great, and it's so wonderful to be with you and Perez.
Yeah.
Feels like old times, which I do miss.
Well,
Yeah, it's been a bit of an emotional whirlwind, I should say. There was a challenge to my citizenship, and I had an opportunity yesterday to
mhm.
clarify before the executive committee of the Mississippi GOP that I am in fact a citizen of Mississippi, and I am qualified to run for public service commissioner, and they overwhelmingly agreed. So I am still on the ballot. I'm still in this race, and I'm excited to take my message of doing work that's right by the people of the Northern District out to the people.
Yeah, I think most of us who know you thought, of course, I have no idea why this challenge is even a challenge, because it would be something that you would have checked out quite thoroughly before you decided to throw your hat in the ring here. But be that as it may, that's behind you now. Let me also catch you up on this one. Mississippi Republican Party's Executive Committee also met yesterday, voted to reject also a request from Senator Chad McMahon, who's a Republican from Guntown, to keep his Republican primary opponent off the ballot. Chad McMahon's campaign attempted to argue that Smith's voting record shows she does not meet residency requirements to run for the legislature. Smith, in a statement, called McMahon's residency challenge, quote, frivolous and baseless. He's nothing more than a typical politician who will use every dirty trick in the book to hide the truth about his unethical behavior and terrible voting record, Smith said. He will do anything to keep that Senate seat. The words from his challenger. So, boom, the election period is on. So, now that that's behind you, I mean, that's the last stumbling block, and how's the campaign been going?
It's been going really well. I'm the most qualified candidate out there. It's obvious to anyone I talk to. And I've been making my way around to all the different Republican clubs and women's groups, and stopping by some of the key coffee spots in the Northern District, where a
Yeah.
lot of the issues of the day are discussed with the people who really pay attention and really do care. So it's going really
Yeah.
well. And with PSC, people understand the importance of having a person with oversight of utilities, energy, water, wastewater, the build out of pipelines, the safety around those pipelines, as well as broadband. Having someone like me who has worked on these issues, I don't just talk about them, Paul.
Mhm.
You know, I've worked on these issues for
Yep.
over
Yep.
10 years, and I'm bringing that experience and those relationships and knowledge of access to resources, which is hugely important for these rural communities that really have felt left behind over the last couple of years under the previous incumbent.
Well, and hopefully the Senate will go over to the Republicans. You would hope that, maybe even the presidency in the next time around. But boy, it's like having a judge that you know real well if you're in the courtroom. I got to believe that your expertise and being in the EPA under the Trump administration, knowing where the bodies are buried, or at least knowing the rules and regulations, and that's a valuable asset.
Yeah, absolutely. Because the reality, Paul, is that there are third-party interest groups that are trying to take
Hmm.
advantage of uninformed people in positions of consequence at the PSC level to bring bad decisions here in Mississippi. Things like the Green New Deal. And we had to deal with rolling blackouts in North
Yeah.
Mississippi over Christmas. The city of Hernando was without power for about 2 hours over during Christmas Day in certain areas, which is totally unacceptable. And this is the result of third-party interests trying to get in Mississippi and then have decisions made that benefit their interests
Yeah.
and not looking out for the ratepayers here in Mississippi. So I have
I,
no
I,
problem
I,
taking on those interest groups.
I got to tell you, I'm kind of glad that there's this narrative out there taking the nuisance calls out of the PSC and putting them in the Attorney General, because I think I'm wondering if this is the case, then you don't need that distraction, because is there going to be a narrative or a lot of attention put to EVs, the drain on the system and how that's going to work, and will the PSC of the future have to solve some of those problems?
Yeah, absolutely. The PSC will have to work with the legislators. I know there's a couple of bills pending right now. Senator Joel Carter, he was on your show earlier talking about one of his bills, but building out that infrastructure, it's going to require a big picture analysis and a balanced look at building out something so that the consumers may demand, and making sure that it doesn't take away access to reliable energy or undermine the affordability of energy in the process. And that's what's so important to the majority of the ratepayers. And the good news, Paul, is we will have time. You hear the Biden administration talk about how electric vehicles are going to be everywhere by 2035. That's not true. The saturation rate today for electric vehicles is less than 4%. So it's going to be some time when more Mississippians are driving these vehicles. So we will have time to figure this out. We just have to make smart, prudent decisions in the process.
Let me give you a couple of lead stories here on stack number 3. Tesla is recalling 363,000 vehicles this morning, equipped with the company's experimental driver assistance software out of an abundance of caution. I would think that the folks at the legislature may want to take a look at the autonomous bill and just make sure everything is okay with it. Safety recall report on the National Highway Traffic Safety website said the full self-driving beta or the FTA beta system may cause crashes by allowing the affected vehicles to act unsafe around intersections and among other things. Story number 2 here, real quick. Ford Motor Company has suspended deliveries of the new F-150 Lightning, the electric pickup truck, after final inspection showed that the vehicle's battery may fail. During a standard Lightning pre-delivery quality inspection, a vehicle displayed a battery issue. We believe we have identified the root of the cause, but they've pulled all of the deliveries for the F-150. I agree with you. I think it's going to be a while, and I think where these things are going to be used the most is where they are adapted to that particular environment, for the most part.
Yeah, I agree. And that's right. And also, look, there's still questions about this technology and how well it does or doesn't work. And so the biggest issue here is we have to resist efforts, mostly from the federal government under the Biden administration, from trying to mandate technology that is not ready for prime time or does not make sense for a place like Mississippi, where it's very rural. We're not going to have the consolidated infrastructure that may make sense in other areas. So look, the technology's out there. People who want it can try it out, but it shouldn't be forced on the rest of us.
Well, Mandy, the other part of this, and somebody's going to answer this sooner or later, how much money are we actually saving? How much are we actually doing for the environment? How much are we actually doing for the security of this country when you talk about the minerals that have to be mined, when you talk about the storage, all of this stuff? We really don't have a number on that. We know more about the balloons than we actually know about the outcome of, are we actually doing something that's productive to the environment?
Yeah, the expansion of electric vehicles, as well as solar panels that use a lot of the same minerals, this is playing into the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. And that's why one of my platforms is China Free Power, making sure that we're not building out solar panels that benefit the Chinese Communist Party and leave Mississippians on the hook for unreliable, expensive energy. So all of this plays into their plans to shift the United States from reliant on OPEC to reliant on the Chinese Communist Party that owns the majority of the mines where these minerals come from. And so this administration, they need to stand up and push back. And the thing too, Paul, is we have these type of resources here in this country, but this administration wants to shut down mining, shut down American manufacturing. And so they're not open to building up a supply chain that could be here in the United States that would improve security.
All right, let's play this. Let's fast forward a little bit. Mandy's moving into the office. She's been elected. You got everything settled up. Now you're writing on a clean piece of paper top 3 objectives. What would they be?
Yeah, first and foremost, it's America First Energy is the first objective, and that's making sure we are using the resources of which we've been abundantly blessed and know how to effectively extract, refine, transport, and deliver for consumer use in a very responsible way. And that's that takes a big picture analysis, but this is relying on coal and natural gas primarily, and then other resources as needed. Number 2, I already went over, was China Free Power, making sure we are prioritizing Mississippi's interests.
Hold on for number 3. We get some time.
Over those.
Hold on for number 3. We'll finish this. I don't want to rush you. Hang on. Well, the other part of that, if you'd come on this morning and said, well, Paul, it didn't work out and I'm not going to be able to compete, then I know who's going to be on the air next week for 3 or 4 vacation days, but that didn't happen, so we'll worry about that a little later. Mandy's with us. Bill Raymond joins us coming up at 8:05. He's Historical Administrator, City of Biloxi. Mardi Gras Museum on the coast. We will talk about that ahead of next week's Fat Tuesday. More is coming up. And you were going to give me number 3 there, but you got through number 1 and number 2. But I was asking you, if you are elected, what would be number 3 on that list, and how do we march forward on that one?
Yeah, well, just to quickly recap, first and foremost, it would be to keep electricity rates low and the power actually on and working. The Northern District has experienced problems recently, so I've got a lot of solutions to that problem. Number 2, it would be expanding access to broadband. Now, a lot of that role has been shifted over to Sally Doty's shop with the new Beam operation, but there's still a very important role for PSC, so working with her on that. And number 3 is access to clean, reliable water. There are a lot of communities, Paul, that are still reliant on well water, and those wells test positive for things you do not want to be drinking yourself nor giving to your family. Yeah. And so it's providing access to resources and helping create good relationships between a lot of entities that exist at the federal and regional level that can help rural water communities that are still struggling to find a way to address the clean drinking water situation in their small communities.
How does your liaison or your work with the Trump administration as far as the EPA is concerned, how does that play in as an asset when you're talking about huddling up with the congressional delegation, talking to the people at the EPA, maybe finding money that we hadn't found before, or at least challenging some of the regulations? Does that play into that as far as that experience is concerned?
Yes, I think the best advocate is a competent advocate. And that's what I have. Not only do I understand the issues and what are really good solutions that could work even in areas where it's a small community and there's not a large tax base or not that access to funds that sometimes are required to match. I think it's being competent. And it's also, I know a lot of people in a number of different agencies, and just having that personal relationship means that our requests in North Mississippi, they're going to be listened to, they're going to be prioritized. And I also learned in the Trump administration, you do not back down even when someone may tell you no, when you know you are on the side of right. So being a bulldog in that fight is something I will absolutely do to get the people what they need in the Northern District.
God bless you on the last name, and I understand that, and I know people were saying that, are you going to use your Mississippi name or the name of your husband? But I mean, it's one of those challenges. But your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, that's why I started out with Mandy for Mississippi, it's actually a nickname I've had from my first internship at the White House. Everyone's called me Mississippi Mandy, that I've known for a really long time. But I think we're leaning into Gunasekara. We'll have a couple of commercials leaning into it because people do take a look and they're interested in how to say it, and I'm happy to explain it. But what I note on the campaign trail is you don't have to be able to say it to vote for me, just recognize it.
There you go. Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I'm just really excited, Paul, that yesterday's decision turned out the way that it did. It was a frivolous challenge. It was arguments about residency when the standard is citizenship. And so I am grateful for the executive committee for their willingness to look at this, at the facts, to understand the law, and to keep me in this race, because I am excited to deliver on all these good things going on in the Northern District and to help this area really grow. We've got a lot of the growth in the state is the Northern District, and the things that I'm going to do at the base level are going to create a strong bedrock for a major new growing economy to be built.
Mandy, thank you, and I'm glad it turned out that way, and glad to see you're still in the race. Have a great weekend.
All right, you too. Thanks, Paul.